It must be Tuesday night because welcome to It's a Legit Metaphysical World. Tonight, I am very excited because I have a very special guest tonight. The one and the only Buddy Thayer is going to be my guest tonight on the show. He is an incredible paranormal investigator. He is the founder and the leader of Ocean State Paranormal, my paranormal group. And we are here tonight to talk about our ghost stories and how he got into this crazy field that we are both in. So, Buddy, bring yourself back on because he's also my producer. So, and there he is.
Good evening. I hope I'm not skipping.
Oh, no. And now Buddy has frozen.
Then I'll probably still be talking.
Oh, okay. What did you say? Because you froze mid-sentence there, my friend.
Oh, my God. Right. I'm going to freeze almost the entire show, so I hope it doesn't start too bad, and just wait for me to keep talking.
Okay.
My friends are knocking down my door to play with my Commodore 64.
So for our viewing audience, in case you notice all this back here, yes, I am moving. I am going to be moving at couple of weeks, 2 weeks, actually, down south to South Carolina. So there will be a brief time when I'm not going to be doing this on a Tuesday night, probably for about a month, maybe a month and a week, until I get settled down there. And then I will come back on with brand new guests and live card readings and all the good stuff that we love to do. But I am going to need a break until I get settled down there. So stay tuned.
Something like a little southern metaphysical. That should be fun.
Yes, it will. Because I don't know if a lot of our viewers realize, but Charleston has a lot of paranormal activity down there. Savannah, which is 2 hours away from where I'm moving, is supposedly actually built on a gravesite. So they supposedly moved the cemetery stones, but never moved the bodies. So when they excavate in Savannah, they actually dig up bones and stuff.
Oh, so,
yeah. So it being so close to that area, I will definitely be trying to do some paranormal investigating myself.
The city of Charleston has several rivers that run into it. It's a very large harbor. It's a very old city. Yep. A lot of stuff from the Civil War, a lot of stuff from the Revolutionary War. The old jail has come up on my radar and has been on my radar for actually a few years now. And maybe like a road trip down there might bring us into Charleston.
Oh, Ocean State Paranormal on the road.
Crashes into Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh my God, that would be cool.
That'd be epic.
Right? And we could do it live on Facebook too. Oh my God.
Awesome.
That would be so cool, right? That would be fun. I would like doing that. And Buddy's frozen.
Okay. Back
again.
God, this is terrible. I'm sorry. I gotta call Verizon tomorrow or something. I don't know. What's the plan?
Yeah, and tell them just bump us up one more level, please.
Yeah, right.
So, Buddy, can you tell people out there that may not know you personally, like I do, how did you start? Where did your love for the paranormal or the ghost start? Did it start when you were a child, like a lot of our guests, or was it later in life?
So I recognized later in life that experiences that I had when I was younger may have been paranormal. Like the feeling that I get, the feeling that I often describe, it's like a pressure. It kind of starts like chest, neck, back, middle of my spine. It's a pressure. That's all I can describe it as. It's not pain.
I think he said it's not pain.
Pain comes and it goes. But it's most prevalent. What's that? It tingles sometimes. Sometimes it's just heavy. Sometimes it causes nausea. Sometimes it you have every hair on your body stand up. Sometimes you feel like there's somebody like right on top of you, and there's nobody there. So it's just that feeling. I've had that feeling. I can remember going back as a young child. We visited a lot as a kid. We took a lot of road trips down south. Did a lot of trips to like Mount Vernon, Washington's home, Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home, both in the lovely state of Virginia. Andrew Jackson's home in Tennessee. I remember these similar feelings, but I was never I never felt it so strong as when I did when I was 16 years old. I was delivering pizza for a local pizza place. I delivered to a condo complex in Georgeville, Smithfield, It's the old Georgeville Mill Complex. It's about 6 buildings. One of the main buildings, one of the oldest buildings in the complex. I go in that as soon as I walk into that. As soon as I walk into that, you walk into a lobby and it splits off into different hallways, and you go different floors and stuff. And as soon as I walked into that main entrance, that big lobby, it hit me. And like the further I got into the building, the more I wanted to get the fuck out of that building because I felt like something was there, something was watching me, something was like maybe not telling me to leave. Initially, it was scary. So anytime a slip would come up with his address, I'm like, I'm like, I say to the other driver, I'm like, hey, you want to take this? You can go that way. You can do this. And you can have a couple cigarettes on your drive because it's like 2 miles down the road. I would always pass up on it. And then we go legend tripping. Like we go in
I believe Buddy said he went
high
legend.
grade. We all go to like the lad school, break in. We go to like various places that were allegedly haunted, trying to have an experience, and nothing ever happened.
And who
So
was
then I,
we?
like,
When you said we went on legend trips?
myself,
Oh,
people I grew up with,
okay.
would just like would go looking for this shit and would never find it, and would find trouble before we found something like ghostly.
Yeah.
But later in my 20s, after I met my wife Heather, she was having experiences. It kind of intrigued me, but like I wasn't sure if I believed it or not at this point because it had been like I didn't recognize the stuff having moved past that, and I had always like said, "Oh, it was this, it was that." It was like just me like feeding into my own paranoia, or I'd always have an excuse for what it was. I was the biggest skeptic in the world. I never believed in any of it. I thought it was easy because it was convenient, because it was an easy answer. Hey, it was the ghost that did it. Hey, that weird feeling, that person running up the stairs. Oh, it was the ghost. It was just it's like a simple. I always thought it was a scapegoat. And then I started working at a group home in Woonsocket. And I took the overnight shift because it was the only full-time position open there. And I had worked with kids for a number of years, and it was children, and it was overnight. So all I was doing, I was packing meds, I was cleaning. If kids got up in the night and they were wet, I would help them change and shower and go back to bed, stuff like that, monitoring the children so often. And I had so many experiences. It started with that feeling. It started with the feeling of being watched. It started the feeling of like always constantly looking in this one area of the house. I was always looking at the Florida room. So you walk in, my main area of operations was this kitchen, and there were 4 bedrooms off this kitchen. Then you walk through a door, and it was like a glass door, and you walk through the glass door, and it was like a double parlor living.
Come on, bud.
It was the Florida room, which was closed off, and there was the stairs going up. There was a bedroom at the bottom of the stairs. So many times I'd hear footsteps going up those stairs, grab the keys, go running up the stairs, unlock every single of these doors in these 3 offices upstairs, all of them empty. We'll check all the kids. All the kids are in their beds. Nobody there. Other times, like you'd be doing these checks and you thought you'd hear voice. I thought I would hear voice. This one woman called up. She's like, "Hey, this is a day girl." She's like, she lived in one side. She's like, "Hey, I was driving on Providence Street, and I saw a woman standing in the." She's like, "You training somebody? Is somebody there with you?" I'm like, "No, I'm here by myself." She's like, "There's a woman. There was a woman. I swear to God, there was a woman standing in the flower room looking out the window." I'm like, shut the fuck up. I mean, don't talk to me.
Why are you telling me this?
People would have these ghost stories. I'm like, it's everything else. It's not a ghost, right? So all this stuff starts happening, and it's building up more. It builds up more and more. It gets to like the TV in the playroom in the basement would go on as loud as possible.
Wow.
You'd run downstairs and shut it off. And when in the last few hours of the night, the kids that were in the playroom, they had the TV on. It was always low because the younger kids were sleeping upstairs.
Right.
So it made no sense. Or toys would go off in kids' rooms. Then finally one night, this is right. I had just returned from my honeymoon. It says August the 9th. I think it was the 9th. It was a Tuesday. It was a Monday into a Tuesday. So my week.
Now at this point,
Sunday.
buddy, you still didn't believe it was ghosts or paranormal at all.
No, I was still like that was like the sneaking suspicion, But I did everything in my power to shoot down everybody's claims. I'm like, no, that's not it. This is not paranormal. This is
Right.
like whatever.
Right.
So I come back from my honeymoon. Second night at work. The first night at work was fine. There was no feelings. So I worked there for about a year and a half. There'd be like months where it'd be like crazy, and there would be other months where it'd be nothing.
Nothing.
So with nothing, I come back. I'm like, oh, this is nice. There's nothing going on. I don't feel uncomfortable here. It's okay, right? And then the next night comes, and it's that Tuesday. So I go in at 10. It was 10 to 6 shift. So I go in at 10 o'clock. The shift report with the other shift and blah blah blah, and everything's cool and quiet and blah blah blah. So I had one of the bedrooms that was right adjacent to the sink and right adjacent to the bathroom, right, that was off that kitchen, was a 3-boy bedroom. So I had to sit in front of that door and monitor these 3 boys.
Yeah.
And all three, every boy in the building had an alarm. So they had an alarm that was about this big that was trained on the bed. If they were to get up and move in their bed, the alarm would start to like doo 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 doo.
Yeah.
So I was doing the dishes. Early that night I got really super emotional. I started like crying.
Bud, you froze.
I'm so upset, buddy. You just got married. You just had a wonderful honeymoon. You had a wonderful experience. And I'm trying to like search in my head to justify a reason why I'm this like overwhelmed with tears. And I like maybe because my great aunt and uncle just got like put in a home, but I don't know. You know,
You're just kind of pulling it from anywhere.
I tried to ignore it. That was about 11:30ish. 4 o'clock the next morning, I started.
Well, buddy, you gotta call Verizon.
Loading the 3-boy bedrooms right behind me, so I'm at the sink area, and the bathroom's right here to my right, and I hit the alarm. I hit doo 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 doo, and it goes more and more and more. The closer this, whatever it is that's moving there, it gets to it.
So what?
It goes out further.
Hold on, bud. So that the thing on the kid's bed is actually like a motion sensor.
Right. It's essentially, yeah.
Okay, so with it going off, something's moving in that room.
Right. Something's where it's trained. Yeah. Like, and one is trained on each kid's bed.
Okay.
So this thing is going off like nuts.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, because you keep cutting out a lot, bud. So I'm trying to like keep the story going. People.
Yeah, keep us together. Okay. So
go ahead.
As the alarm's going off, I turn around and I'm looking into this dark doorway, and I see a figure starting to emerge. Now I'm about 6'4". The figure came out to about here, so I'd say about 5'6", maybe 5'7". I could see a figure of a head, shoulders, arms, waist, chest, legs swinging, arms swinging, legs moving. It was translucent. It was a black shadow. It came out of the room, walked right in front of me, came to this point, and either it took off, saw this figure,
either it took
walked
off
out of this bedroom.
All right, bud. So it walked across you. You froze up again. It walked across you, and then where did it go?
It went to my right as it was like walking towards the living room, and it completely disappeared.
Now you said it started to appear, so it slowly started to appear. It wasn't just all of a sudden there.
No, as it walked out of this room, excuse me, I thought it was this kid Russ that was in the room. He's a little. He was like a 9-year-old little black kid, but he was tall, and as he came out further, like I saw it was a shadow. It was just black shadow. You could see through it, but it was difficult. It was a low light situation to begin with, and
were you scared? What were you feeling?
It worked like this, like right in front of my face. I grabbed that countertop behind me as hard as I could, and I froze.
Yeah. Just like he just froze.
Trying to process what I had just experienced was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
So after that night, I went home and I documented it, and I actually put it on MySpace at the time. That was
my gosh.
So I put a post on MySpace, and all these people responded and stuff. And then these coworkers start responding. Like, huh. So then I'm like, all right, well, let me see what's next. So I go back, and it gets worse. Like I feel like cold spots, you name it. It was a belly of everything.
Did you ever see that same shadow again?
No, I didn't. Kids reported seeing shadow figures. They would get up crying, terrified, seeing this either a man or a dark shadow figure in their room looking at them.
Now, let me ask you something, Bud, because I also worked in a group home with kids ages 5 to 12. That was highly, highly
Mhm.
active, crazy stuff
Right.
all the time. And like you, it would come and it wouldn't stop for like weeks on end, and then nothing would happen for a very long time. You know what I mean? But
Right.
I mean, walking back into an office and all the chairs are turned upside down on top of the desk. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
really, really hearing running footsteps upstairs, doors
Yeah.
slamming, and there's nobody around except me. Like very, very active things. Do you think there is a connection between the paranormal and children that struggle with stuff like the kids we worked with? I mean, I don't know about your kids,
Yeah.
but my kids all had a lot of trauma.
Okay. All right. Trauma, yes, but think about how, like, this is my own just personal observation. Think about how a spirit can allegedly feed off of our energy, can
Yeah.
take our energy, make us feel dead tired the next day, or if
Yep.
we're scared, they'll feed into that, or if we're whatever, they'll feed into it, and they say they can get stronger by
Yeah.
feeding off your energy. So imagine all the energy that comes out of a kid growing up in a group home, absolutely miserable, taken
True.
out of his
True.
home, the trauma that he might have gone through, the trauma
Yep.
that he experiences right there in that group home,
Yeah.
and then multiply it by how many kids have been through that group home over how many years, and imagine the energy that is available in these very old. They usually group home companies will buy these really cheap houses
Yeah.
or really.
Run down places. Our place in
Oh, my
itself.
mother worked in one, and we ended up investigating. It was super haunted.
Yeah, the place
Um,
that I worked, I mean, it used to be an alcohol recovery place where the manager hung himself in the second floor. You know what I mean?
right,
I mean, it had a history of, and it was in the middle of West Greenwich, in the middle of nowhere. So the energy there was just always, always off. Plus,
right.
add on kids with their little brains still developing, and we have them on all kinds of meds too. You know what I mean? What does that do to them and to the energy they're putting out too?
You know.
You know?
It's fascinating. You could go on and like
Oh,
investigate every facet of the paranormal and still not have an answer
no,
after a
absolutely.
lifetime of doing this.
So after that huge experience,
Right.
was that when you started? Like, how long between then and when you formed Ocean State Paranormal?
So it was a little while. So after that experience, I went to my clinician, my boss, and she validated my experience and she told me about experiences that she had. And she told me
Really?
about she told me, yeah, and she told me about it. One of the kids that we had there, we had a grandfather that had recently died, and he was right off the a bedroom, right off the kitchen, and he would wake up and see an older man standing there looking at him, rubbing his arm like this. They told him it was his dead grandfather coming to check on him. They validated, a clinician, a licensed social worker like you, told him that it was the ghost of his grandfather and he was coming to check on him. So he wouldn't be
Wow.
scared of the ghost of the house. So that was cool. And then she told me to get in touch with the other lady who has tons of experiences there, who can see these shadow figures that I was seeing as a woman about early 20th century dress. Didn't look like they were well off. So
This was a coworker.
she was a
That's
coworker. She
okay.
worked. She worked at all three houses. And I'm like, well, what do you do? I'm sometimes I'm fucking terrified to be here by myself, you know. And she's like, you just got to talk to them. I'm like, what do you mean talk to them? And like, so I talk to them. I'm like,
Like, hey, I'm here. It's
like
Buddy.
like
Yep.
talk or like talk to my head or like she's like either or. She's like, they're gonna hear you. You can talk out loud. They'll hear you, and
Yep.
they'll respect that. She's like, just tell me, hey, you're bothering me. Leave me the hell alone. I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah. So me being the history dork that I am, I wanted to kind of know a little bit about the area. So I went and I did some research.
On the
Went to
house
City
itself.
Hall. Yep, on the house itself. I went to Woonsocket City Hall. I looked through the four owners. The group home that owned it now. The people that owned it before were a young couple that partied a lot. They had a bar in the basement that they had to remove. One of the girls that I worked with had partied there like 20 years before. So they were still alive. Before that was a family with three boys. And they had raised that family, and the boys had moved out. The elderly, the couple who owned the house were both still alive. Then It was the people who built the house. They built the house in 1926. They
Okay.
were Italian immigrants. They came over in 1920. He was a carpenter. They lost the house at the tail end of the Great Depression in 1939. Mortgage foreclosure. He was out of work. She didn't work. They lost their house. He built that house with his own hands, and it was
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful craftsmanship in that double pole. It was gorgeous. And and I redid the bathroom, and I remember tearing apart the walls, and it was like horsehair insulation. It was really cool. But anyway, um, they lost the house in '39, and then they died the year later. Both of them died within a month of each other, and they're both buried at Precious Blood Cemetery. So I went out to the cemetery. I said my respects to them. Mr. and Mrs. I forgot their first name, so Peranunzi was their last name.
Okay.
So one night is like the next night I go back to work. I wait till about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning when everything was really quiet and all the kids were definitely sleeping. I closed all their doors. I stood in the middle of the living room. I'm like, Mr. and Mrs. Peranunzi, this is a beautiful house. I'll do my best to make sure it stays safe and stays clean and whatever, but I'm not here for your house. I'm not here for you. I'm here for the safety of these children. So please, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. Please
Don't come near me.
leave me alone. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. From that night on, I worked at that group home for another 8 months or so. From that night on, not a single night did I have another experience.
Let me
Blows my
ask you
mind.
something, bud. Now that you are such a paranormal investigator, do you kind of kick yourself for saying that? Like, if you were there now, you'd be like, bring it on. I'm right
Right.
here.
Oh,
You can
absolutely.
pull my beard. You can do whatever you want, right? Like, that
Right.
was now.
Oh, please pull my bed. Yeah, come
Yeah,
sit next to me on the couch for the love of
yeah,
Christ.
yeah. Hit me in the head.
But I
I know.
again
It's enough
now
investigation for
now
you. Yeah.
now I'm all right. Now I'm a little bit more exposed to it. Kind of turns into like almost an excitement, almost like a positive like a good energy, you know. And it's more about helping people. It's about going into people's houses or their businesses or like, yeah, I think I'm crazy. I'm seeing all this shit. Like maybe you're crazy, but we also found this. We have to validate people's stories.
Yeah.
So that's what really got me into this field was about a year after the incident in Woonsocket, my grandmother passed away right upstairs. And on Mother's Day of 2010 of all days. And very strong, passionate woman. And shit started happening here. Like the day of her funeral, we had everybody back to the house. And people started noticing things. That weird. The dog wouldn't go in the room that she died in. The dog would like do. It was a little pug. The dog would do circles like when to greet somebody and like jump and go crazy. She would do that in
Yeah.
the hallway, like up and down the hallway.
Like there was someone there, but there was no one there.
Right.
So the
Holy
theory
smells, a lot of
is,
olfactory experiences. One I'll never forget. I was olfactory, like the smells. You get a lot of smells. Smells of her, smells of like that would trigger memories of her. Smells that wouldn't be present normally in this house. Then a team came in and
what
they
team?
investigated. It was actually the team that I started with was called Ocean State Paranormal Investigators. The group leader gave me the permission to take the group and move forward with them, and I dropped investigators and made it Ocean State Paranormal
Yeah.
2012. But anyway, they came in, they validated, they had some of the similar experiences. They were able to capture, we were able to explain to us like, hey, this is probably we don't know, we can't say for sure that this is your grandmother, but it probably is, or it's probably family. We didn't get any malevolent, like indicators or anything. And
Did they get any
like
EVPs
again,
or
like just
anything? Or just
they we got an EVP when I joined them. We ended up coming back. They ended up coming back here about 7 months later. Activity started again, and we captured an EVP. So a lot of the stuff that would happen, like lights would go on and off, the washer machine would go on and off, the TV would go on and off, all certain like electrical things would go off. So I'm like, do this, do that, open the door. She moved one time. My mother came home, and all the dining room chairs were pulled out from around the dining room table, like somebody had vacuumed, but nobody did it. Shit like that would happen. So I'm like, do this, do that, do this, do that. and there's a voice. We had to amplify it a little bit. It's a rough, like she was very sarcastic. It sounded like something that she would say. So like
What did
awesome
she
is all
say?
this.
Because you cut out.
Want a circus.
What, a circus?
Want like want a
Want a
circus.
circus?
Want a circus? Like you want me to do all this shit? You want me to do all these tricks things? You know?
Oh, okay. So, like, you want me to perform?
Right,
What do you want? A
exactly.
circus?
And that was the only thing that we got from that night. And we got a lot of like K2 hits and stuff, and
Yeah.
a lot of like spirit box shit, but nothing that was pretty solid. So
Just so people know that might not understand what we're talking about, an EVP is electronic voice phenomenon, and how we capture those is we have recorders that are running. We have digital recorders that are running while we're investigating, and we're asking questions. And later on, when we review the tapes, is when we hear voices of people that aren't in the room with us at the time. I mean, we've also collected EVPs where I personally, when I investigate, I like leaving a recorder in an empty room. Makes for a very long review, like hours sometimes of nothing, but you know there's no contamination. If there's no one else in the room and you catch a voice on that recorder, that's pretty significant, you know? So that's what an EVP is, just in case people who are watching don't understand what it is.
right. Sometimes you hear it with your own ear. And
oh yeah. Don't you find, buddy, the more we're doing investigations, the more recently we are hearing more stuff just in our ears live than we are, like, we're still catching a lot of cool EVPs, but it's also like live we're hearing some stuff. We're like,
a lot of phenomena going on that way. Yeah, exactly. Like at that last investigation that we had, where there was all that banging coming from the floor below us, and there was nobody on the floor below us.
Yeah. Cool. And that was coincident because that was happening at the same time the pendulum was really acting up, and we were getting good stuff off of the pendulum, and then we started hearing more live stuff going on, and it seemed, when we started it seemed like the noise that we were hearing was getting closer and closer to us. You know, it was that was a fun night. That really was.
That was a good place. I've been haunting them literally to try and get back in there. So yeah, you probably won't. It probably won't happen before you go south, but we'll definitely. I could go back in there like 100 times. I think, to be honest with you. So.
Well, just like that person we had on my show a few weeks ago that was telling us, you know, and he brought up such a valid point that I never really considered. When we go into these places and the spirits don't know us from Adam, they have no idea who we are, and we expect them to talk to us right away and trust us and tell us stuff. You know what I mean? Like, come on, do this, do that, do this, you know, turn off a light, you know, make a noise. They don't know who the heck we are. You know, I think he brought up a valid point that maybe the more you investigate the same place, the more the energy there gets used to you, the more stuff you may capture because they're more used to you. You know,
maybe just think about normal human interaction rather than am I talking to a dead person or not?
Right. So, do you have you brought anything for the viewers to hear? And hopefully we can hear it.
Oh, have I brought anything for the viewers to hear? We were just talking about a EVP or electronic voice phenomena. I happen to have one with you to start things off.
Okay.
So give me a second here, and here we go.
How old were you when you began your service?
That was pretty cool.
Right.
That was pretty cool. Because obviously, I don't know if our viewers could you know, understand, but it wasn't me talking. It was a very low whisper, and it was in a place that we've investigated. Oh my God, buddy, how many times? 4 or 5 times now?
At least 5 times in public investigations, and
me
being there by myself and just throwing the recorder on for shits and giggles. You know.
Yeah. The place is highly, highly, highly active. And also, I think a big piece of why that place is so active is there's so many historical artifacts in this place. And it goes along with the attachment theory of, when trauma happens to something, some of the energy can get trapped in the article itself and draw people back in. Yeah, no, that was a cool one.
Phenomenal place.
This is Buddy's favorite place that we're talking about.
I have the keys right here, actually. I have the keys to the kingdom for that location right here.
Yeah.
And I have my own alarm code. So yes, we can go in and we'll be investigating very shortly.
But before I leave, that will be my final investigation with Ocean Saint. Hopefully, sometime when I'm back up here, because I will come up here once or twice a year. We can always schedule something for me to do paranormal when I come back home too. That would be great too. And like I said, OSP can come down to South Carolina and check out some of the mansions and stuff, and see who I can connect with to maybe get us in there. I'm sure they might be open to a northern group coming in and trying to find some evidence.
They call us Yankee boys, even though none of us are from New York or support the New York Yankees. We're all Yankees.
God, no! Don't even call me a Yankee. No, that's that's not a good thing. All right, do you have another one to share with us, my friend?
I do. Our next one, I think it's one of my early. I'll go. The next one I'll play is the one with you're in it, your husband, your lovely husband, and my lovely.
Oh.
He's an Italian, and at the time we're hearing something that with our own ears, and it comes up on audio.
So okay. All right.
It's
cool.
at the SK Victorian Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts.
This is like a closet over here.
All right.
And then there's a bedroom over there. That's the nursery.
Oh.
It was a nursery years ago, and it was Edwin's office after that.
I heard it was like 4 notes. It sounded like a thing you wind and it plays. The music, like a music box. It's like 4 notes, and then I couldn't hear it. That's why it didn't last.
Nursery.
That was a wild place.
Yeah, it was.
SK Mansion was a beautiful Victorian mansion. We did a public investigation there, right? We helped out with 555 paranormal. We helped out with that. That night was wild. Remember in the piano room, you and I, we were doing a group. We had a public group with us, and we were sitting on the floor, and I was sitting kind of like near the piano, and something kept grabbing my arm. Something kept touching my arm. And I'm like, buddy, something's touching me. Like, it keeps touching me. So we switched places. So he's like, all right, I got to go over there now. We switched places. And then it started happening to Buddy, too. The same thing. Something just kept trying
that very room we were in for the EVP or for the disembodied, whatever the hell it was. I remember asking this woman Maggie, if you're here, if you want me to leave, give me a sign. I can remember clear as day how it felt. It felt like somebody taking their finger. I was sitting on the floor.
Yep.
They just press it in the top of my fucking head like that. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it felt like. And it was hard. It's like, whoa. And I've never felt anything so pronounced since then. So that was kind of cool.
That was a really cool place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Built in the early 1880s. The guy who owned it was a Victorian furniture builder. That Gardner is the capital of furniture building in America, which nobody knows that. But I mean, there's giant rocking chairs on the side of the road. And Mr. Pierce kind of has a checkered past or an alleged checkered past. And that's kind of what they think leads to all this activity at the house. Also murders, and it was a hua house for a while. And a bad history.
Yeah, an alleged rape room that was in the house too. It was just, And you could, and remember, we walked into
Right.
one room, and my personal thing, not a lot scares me, but creepy dolls, I don't like. I
Fucking
don't
doll. I
like
hate
creepy
dolls.
dolls.
Oh, I hate dolls.
And I walked into one of the bedrooms, and you got to picture this. It's the middle of the night. It's like 1:00 in the morning, you know, and we walk around in the dark because we're all insane. And I walked into the bedroom, and there was a friggin' creepy doll right in the middle of the bed. Oh, I was like, nope, not going in that room. Can't stand creepy dolls. No, I don't know. They just
Hate
freak
dolls.
me out.
Hate them. Hate them. Some people like have multiple dolls in their room. Some people go out of their way to buy haunted dolls and put them in their houses. Are you out of your fucking mind? I'm sorry.
Why on earth would you do that? Yeah, don't you ever buy me a haunted doll for Christmas or anything, or for my new house in South Carolina, because I don't want it. No, I'll bury it in the backyard. No, thank you.
Right. Oh, hate them. No. All right. You want me to go to the next one, or do you want to chat a little bit? Okay. So, next one I got. You investigated this place as well. I don't think you were there. I don't think you were there the first night that we had from this EVP in particular. But this includes our friend Joey Paranormal, or Joey, Joe Britland, if you will. And it's probably one of his most interesting experiences.
I know what it is. Okay. Yeah, I like this one. I love that one.
That's great. Now, to explain a little background to this story, we go into this place. We all meet here. This is back in the day where we had just gotten the wired camera set up. Nobody knows how to do it except the tech guy, Joe. Joe wires the entire building with 8 cameras. He's like, and then Joe is one of just for our audience, if you don't know Joey Paranormal. Joe is one of our most grounded investigators in Ocean State Paranormal. He does not feed into all this energy shit.
Nope.
He's okay with Reiki and stuff, but he's open to everything. But he's not somebody that goes on feelings in an investigation.
No.
He's the technical guy. He's the guy that gets everything going. He's the guy that knows how to do everything. He's the guy that builds equipment. He's the guy that
yeah, he doesn't believe in like when Buddy and I have
he's the guy that. He's not the guy. He's not the touchy-feely guy. So as he gets to the third floor, it's like the attic of this building. It's an the old Kent County Jail, built in the 1798.
Very cool building.
Very cool building. He's wiring the building. He says to me, "Dude," he's like, "I just got this feeling like I wasn't alone. Like there was somebody just standing behind me." He's like, "Hey, my name's Joe. I'll be here all night. I'll talk to you later." And he took off. He came downstairs, and we all drew from a hat that night a different location. And Joe, as we went through it, Joe was last, and he's like, I saw everybody pick every other location. He's like, I knew it was going to be it. He's like, when I pulled it out, it was sure enough, it was that room. And he went right back up to that spot, and within like 5 minutes, he heard the "Hi, Joe." Joe got up. This was like, now bear in mind also, this is March. This is still a lot of snow on the ground. This is East Greenwich in March, which is really popular in the summer and spring and fall. But during the wintertime, everything's closed up. So there's nobody outside. The restaurants are all around.
Quiet. Yeah.
So he
That
looks
is the
outside.
third floor. You wouldn't have heard.
As soon as he comes downstairs, he starts asking all the ladies, "Hey, were you talking to?" But were you talking in the last 15 minutes? They're all like, "No." So Joe's like, "I think I heard something." And as soon as he got home, he reviewed it, and that was his first piece that he presented at the meeting a couple weeks later, and it's blown us away ever since. So
yeah, and we've gone back there twice.
We've gone back there twice, and I was there like every weekend over the summer for like almost 2 summers, doing like
That's
public
true.
events and hosting like other paranormal teams and stuff. Yeah. Raised a lot of money for them.
This place actually in the cellar still had the cells that was there. that you could go and feel the energy of the cells. And one night we had a lot of activity with, remember, we had things like in the corridor right outside the cells, and they were going off like crazy. Yeah, that place. And then we also had the fabulous Roland Comptoir there one time doing a gallery reading, and he was uncomfortable in that place.
Right.
He did not feel comfortable with the energy in that place.
And the coolest part about Roland Comptoir on his visit, he kept saying to me, he kept seeing like people. It's at the bottom of the hill in East Greenwich. If you're familiar with East Greenwich, and when you look up the hill, you see the East Greenwich Town Hall at the top of the hill. If you know anything about the history of Rhode Island, we had 5 circuit courts back in the day, and that building was one of them. So those people would walk down the hill, and they would walk to jail. So he kept seeing this, and he was wondering why all these people were like tormented and walking down this hill, walking into this place, because that had happened for like over 200 years.
Yeah. And in the basement,
it's incredible.
In the basement of that
I don't
jail,
know how much of that you got. I don't know how much I froze.
You froze, but we got most of it. Was solitary confinement. Like there was this place in the bottom that was solitary confinement in the day, and I mean, it was just the history. And like my lovely nephew, Buddy, I love the history pieces of the places we do. That's I mean, Ocean State Paranormal, we've done Smith's Castle, which was incredible place.
That was awesome.
And that history was unbelievable. I mean, we still have a video from there that we, to this day, really can't agree on what we saw in the window.
That's right.
Remember that piece?
Right. I do remember that. Yeah. Joe had a really, really expensive camera that night. So it's tough to just toss it out because...
Yeah, because we thought we saw a shadow move by the window. But was it him moving the camera? Like, we looked at it, I don't know, Buddy, how many times?
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's right. We were walking out, me and Joe were walking outside. We were walking in the backyard, which was technically the front yard in those days.
Yep.
And we saw it looked like a person, a shadow of a person walking from left to right. We couldn't figure out if it was him moving or what it was, or what could even cast a shadow like that in that room was tricky to discern. To this day, I don't know what that was.
But the one thing that I'm very proud about with Ocean State Paranormal is we are not one to automatically label something paranormal. Oh, that's it. That's a go. You know what I mean? We have not arguments, but we have full-blown discussions on one small EVP, and does everyone agree? And if we don't all agree, we hear something, then we toss it. Because we're really, I don't know about you, but I feel very strongly about trying to expand the field and trying to, put legit stuff out there. No pun intended, but you know what I mean? Instead of just, let's lie and say everything that we call it was paranormal. Like, it's not.
There's been investigators. I can't even call them ghost hunters. There's been people in Rhode Island who will travel to people's houses and make themselves sick and say it's a demon because they want more views on YouTube. Because as soon as you say demon, everybody wants to ooh.
Right.
And demon made me sick. Ooh, that's just fucking Hollywood. I don't know. It's just people are out there trying to glorify themselves. They have no business doing this. This is not about money. This is not about glory. This is about, honestly, it's about helping others and maybe understanding this a little bit more.
Because Ocean State Paranormal, we don't charge anyone. Everything is confidential. We don't tell anyone. We call them by the case numbers. Buddy does an amazing job of getting a history of the place before we even get in there, history of the land and the house and everything, and I think we're very respectful when we go in and we do it. And we all love it so much. And we have a small group, but we all get along really well. We're all a little crazy, and we eat a lot of pizza and snacks.
Yeah, review meetings are always the best because it's always a bevy, either Chinese food or pizza and wings. Or beer sometimes. It's like, wow, this is really, let's just hang out and eat good food and bullshit. But yeah, we do listen to stuff.
Yeah, we do listen, and Buddy always gets yelled at most of the time. No, Buddy will play it. Listen to this EVP I got. And we're all like, don't hear anything, Buddy.
They don't have the hearing. I
Yeah.
don't know what
And then Buddy yells at us and usually swears at the same time. So
I usually swear at them. Yes, it's true. Oh, nobody likes let down. But
no.
since you're talking about history and doing research, I have an EVP I want to present. I hope I played the right with this, two of them. But it dates back to one of our first cases. A very good friend of mine, I won't say his rank, but he's a higher ranking military official. Jeffrey A. Hearn was able to do some digging for me on the history of this house that I was investigating in lovely town of Woonsocket. Come to find out, it was built by a man who not only served in the Rhode Island first Rhode Island Cavalry during the United States Civil War. He served from 1861 to 1865. Oh my God, he was like captured at Middleburg. He survived like prison camp. He ended up being promoted to a lieutenant, from private to lieutenant, then a captain. Then he served time, and he was doing time in D.C. as a clerk. He was in D.C. when Lincoln was shot. He saw Lincoln's body lying in state. He found all these documents in the Woonsocket Library that this guy had wrote down, like his memoirs, and all this stuff was there. He ended up coming home and like founding a few of the school systems in Woonsocket and really helping the immigrant population and the Woonsocket going from a small farming town to a major mill metropolitan city. And when he died in 1920, died of Bright's disease, which is when you drink like pasteurized milk. He was a farmer, and unpasteurized milk, after a while, it causes Bright's disease. It's the disease of the kidneys. It's a slow, painful death, from what I understand. But if you look at most people's obituaries, the most average common person's obituaries back in like 1920, sometimes it'll be like a blip of like 2-3 sentences, if that.
Yeah.
I got a page and a half, huge article on this guy. Off the back, I was standing in the. It was a small cottage, and we were on the second floor. It was me and a medium. Christ, I can't even remember her name now. She's one of the first mediums I ever worked with Ocean State Paranormal. She came with me. It was just me and her, and we were talking about items that an officer would carry into battle he was a cavalry officer. We were talking about what a cavalry officer would carry into battle. We're listing things. As we're talking, you'll hear a woman's voice say a word. Then I'm talking like platoon. I'm like, no, but it's not called a platoon back in those days. You'll hear a man's voice, clear as day. I'll play it twice if you need to, but holy shit, this is like making that connection, using history and making that connection with the past.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with your I figure he had a musket, flintlock,
Cavalry sword.
He was a captain, so he led a small brigade it'd be called a platoon. Nowadays, I don't believe they call it a platoon back then.
Wow. And that EVP was said while you were talking.
Right. And what's her name? The chick, the girl's voice and the EVP's voice, it sounds like at a different tone. It sounds almost at a different sound level. Almost like a whisper. She says bayonet.
Yeah.
Bayonet. And then he says, I did that. And that's just, I automatically thought of that old man, that old man sitting in his rocking chair. Like, I did that. Like,
yeah, right.
Holy shit. And then what I went on to learn about this guy after the fact through like the Varnum Armory, who has a lot of the First Rhode Island Cavalry collection. It was like absolutely like mind blowing what this man went through in like 5 years of his life, and then just like went on to like do greatness when he came home. I know where his grave is. I stop at his grave once a year. I pay my respects. It seems like some of these people, it seems like I almost have this like connection to. I don't know what it is. I feel like connected to him somehow.
Well, you do have a connection to him, buddy, because I mean, you and I have talked about it. You have your own intuition. You have your own intuitive abilities.
Right.
You haven't worked on them for very long. You really haven't. But I believe, like from the other side, your light is bright because you're open to all this stuff. So people, I think on the other side, they don't see our bodies, they see our energy, just, because that's what we are. So they're more attracted to the people whose light shine brighter. So your light shines pretty bright because you're so open to this. So more people are going to go to you and going to be connected to you. You know what I mean? And say, let's go. We're not going to waste our energy going to someone that's completely dark that's not going to see us, even if we fully appear in front of them. They're still not going to believe it. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're going to go to someone who's
It is a
scary.
worthwhile theory, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That was really cool. I don't remember ever hearing that one. That one's really neat.
That's case number 2. So that's my first official case. My first case 1 was here. We investigated here a bunch of times, and then we got a call. A friend on Facebook. She was having a lot of experiences. She actually had Rise Up had investigated for a few years earlier. So that's the first time I met Ken DaCosta. I hooked up with him. I told him that, hey, I'm an investigator. I got this woman. She said she had you investigate. And after I talked to him for a while, he shared some things with me about the case and about their findings and what they thought. And I had a lot of the same, like this woman was like doing anything she could to like attract the energy. She was using Avilius. She was using ghost stuff. She was talking about ghost stuff. I think she almost wanted it to like both. It was a time of when ghost shows were like really popular from Rhode Island on TV. So I think she hoped to gain some fame from maybe being on a local show, from having her living in a haunted house.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they got that. I got that. The mediums I brought in there got that. But mediums I brought in there saw like that. This is the coolest part. I think they saw like this man Albert. I think on 3 different levels. So on the basement, they saw him as he presented as a younger man, probably in his early 30s, and he had 4 children, and his 4 little baby children were with him. They were like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and that's what they saw down in the basement. Then on the first floor, they saw an older man, like looking out the window, sleepless field. And then in the upstairs, they saw an older man, like sitting on his bed, relaxing. I did that. I can't validate. I can't say it's 100% like that's what they were seeing, but that's what they were reporting. And I just think it's fascinating.
Now, buddy, is that the house you brought me to the first time I did an investigation for you?
That was case 13. That is in Manville, Rhode Island, which is also a lovely location that I've investigated many times. This is in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. This is this is more towards like the outskirts of Woonsocket, so up Diamond Hill, where it gets a little bit more rural.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yep. We have just about 7 minutes left, my friend. So, do you have any more clips?
I have one. No, I have 2 more. More.
Awesome.
So I'll play one of my earliest ones next. This one's cool. This is with not my earliest. This is from case 3. I had just adopted Catherine Donahue. Oh,
Catherine, who is also known as the Legend.
Investigated this old bed and breakfast on Block Island, and the 3 of us were in this building. Again, it was like February or March. Nobody on Block Island at that time of year, and we're talking. We started at like 10 o'clock at night, and we investigated all the way to like 4 o'clock the next morning. It was pretty active, but this room itself, I was excited to get into because I've known people who recommended this place to me because of the experiences that they had in this room. They had multiple people that reported seeing an older lady. Multiple people reported hearing footsteps around the room. Multiple people reported hearing an old lady's voice in the room. The name of the room, all these rooms in this building, so this building was originally opened by 2 brothers on Block Island. One was a senator, a state senator. The other one was the only doctor on the island. So at the time, that was where he had his doctor's office. That at the time was also the only morgue on Block Island in the early half of the 20th century. So they both died. Their mother lived in the building. Every one of these rooms, while it was an annex to the old Grand Hotel across the street, that Victorian style that burned down in like 1900, this place served as a place for tourists and for their family members who also lived there. So rooms were named after members of the family. This particular room was called Mama's room. Was named for their mother, who was born in the 1860s, and she outlived both of her children and lived until the 1940s in this very room. Okay. And I'm going to play you. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to play you what we experienced.
Oh, Mrs. Champlin.
Oh, that was clear. That was really clear.
So a little context going in there. We walk into the room, like I said, it's like 2:30 in the morning. I'm tired. I had been there all day. I'd been up all day. I walk in there. I'm like, hey, let me talk to the old lady in the room. Come on, come and talk to me. And Scott's like, hey, you got to remember, this is a woman who's from the Victorian era. She's very proper. She's gonna be talked to with some respect.
Yes.
You got to say hello, Mrs. Champlin. That's him saying hello, Mrs. Champlin. And bam, right there. There's that old lady. It sounds like an old lady.
It does sound like an old lady.
You know, we had two recorders sitting on the bed. They both picked up the same EVP in Mama's room. It's a single bedroom. Some of them were doubles on the third floor. This is a single bed, no bath. We're standing around the bed, and we got that. And it was so clear. I mean, there were a lot of them.
I wonder if our viewers can hear, because there's a difference. When we're listening to these EVPs and you catch something like that, it sounds different. Like it's on a different wavelength. Like it doesn't sound like you and I do talking live. It just doesn't. There's something different. You know what I mean? It just sounds different. You're like, oh, that's
frequency.
something.
It's a little bit lower sometimes.
Yeah.
You look at that bar, sometimes it's absolutely flat, and there's that voice that comes.
And there's that voice, right, and you're like, what on earth is that?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I have one more. Might have to. Let me play this next one. That one was incredible. That's
that
one
was very cool.
But let me see this. I think this is the next one. Hold on.
And so it's possible we might not have heard it if it was far enough away coming out and landing. My guess.
Should something there.
Me too. Mm-hmm. And
I did too. Yeah.
Now that I couldn't hear mud too good, but I could hear puddles, and it sounded like a female voice.
Right, both times it sounded like a female voice. So, the building that we were investigating, it was myself, it was Joe, it was Patrick Donovan of the Varner Memorial Armory, and it was his neighbor that had got us into this building. This is a very old. There is nothing around, nothing. A 25-acre piece of land, and this house is planted in the middle of it, and there's nothing. All right, so we're in this house, and we heard mud first, and we heard puddles. So the history of this house is back back in the 20s and 30s. This house was the home of the Rocky Hill School, which is now in Potawatomi, Warwick, but it was a schoolhouse for about 20 years until they moved it out to Potawatomi. Kind of makes sense to hear a kid's voice, and then the fact that the mud puddles was their mascot. Their mascot was the Narragansett Mud Puddles.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
That
my God, that's
was
cool.
shared with me by the late great Tim Jackson. When he told me that, I kind of almost shit myself a little bit.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That was really cool. And the location that we went to, if you talk to Joe, this is the only place we have ever investigated where he believed that we were going to die inside.
Yeah, he was scared there.
He was absolutely terrified.
And Joe doesn't get scared. He doesn't.
No, not at all. No feeling.
No, and you talk to him about it now, and he still gets freaked out thinking about that place.
Yeah, he's still totally shaken about it.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's all I have as far as EVPs go for this evening.
Okay.
Any other EVPs you wish to see from Ocean State Paranormal, feel free to visit us at Facebook, Ocean State Paranormal. Go to the video section.
Yep.
You look at there's a section called Greatest Hits. You go in, there's a whole ton of really good stuff from most of our cases leading up into the mid-30s.
And if you need help, if you have something going on in your home or your place of work, and they'll let us in, Ocean State Paranormal is a great group to reach out to through Buddy. I mean, he will do a thorough history on the place so you'll understand if there's any connection to history with some experiences that might be going on in your place. If you just want answers, if you want validation that the things you're hearing and experiencing and you're not nuts, have them come in. They're a great group to work with, and it's very respectful, and it's all confidential, and it is 100% free. So if you have any kind, please just reach out to Buddy Thayer. He's a great person to work with. And, he's my nephew, so of course he's a great person to work with.
Right?
Now, next week, we are going to be having Ashley Magic back on our show, and we're going to be doing
Nicole Magic. Nicole Magic.
We're going to be doing, not Nicole, it's Ashley next week.
Oh, you're having a different magic.
Yes, a different magic.
Oh, look at you. You're all sorts of magical these days.
Yes, and we're going to be doing live card readings, so we need some volunteers again. So step forward if you want to have your cards read live on my show. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful, thank you, Buddy. It was fabulous. You and I could talk ghosts for hours on end and not stop.
I could do this for hours. I could do this for days. We could have a show every day of the week, and I could continue.
I could just talk more about ghosts. Like,
right.
This
crazy.
is our passion.
Right.
Have a fabulous week, everyone. Namaste, and thank you so much for joining us.